welcome to the Inside Track on Real Estate with the Dekker Team. I'm Yetta Dekker.
I'm Ken Dekker.
And together,
we're part of the Dekker Team.
There you go. And we have so enjoyed doing this for years now, as well as being in the industry. How long have you been around, Ken?
I'm not telling.
Well, I will.
Okay, you do it.
Because I know that in 1994, you came into the real estate industry.
Yeah,
and
that was 23 years ago.
Yes, and that was the first year in about 50 years that the Ottawa real estate market had gone to a decrease.
Yep.
So we know that you were responsible for that.
Absolutely.
There you go. Who knew he had that much power? And I started in, I'll be honest, 89. 89. Yeah. So the 80s. When I say the 80s, it makes me sound even older.
Hey, some great things came out of the 80s.
Our kids.
Yeah, we got married in 82.
Yeah, we did. Anyway, so today's show is not about us and our wild life. It is about, do I sell or do I repair things in my house? Whether I'm thinking of making a move or whether I'm just living in the home, especially if I'm thinking of making a move, it matters more which things do I repair or do I just sell it the way it is? And with, I guess that's over 50 years combined experience.
Yes, it is.
We've seen, I'm not going to say we've seen it all.
No.
We've seen a ton.
And we've experienced it.
Right.
How many homes have we owned? Both rentals and ones we've lived in over
I don't know.
Our married time.
Many.
We
didn't count.
In the 20s or 30s.
Yeah. And it also helped thousands of clients navigate this specific issue.
Yeah.
So we thought if we shared a few stories, if we shared a little bit of insight that we've learned over the years, it may help you to figure out, do you make that repair if you're thinking of selling, or do you make that repair if you're not thinking of selling, or what do you do? What things really need to get handled? And then I think the second question that I often get asked is, what does it do to the value of my home? So we do promise we'll talk about that, Ken?
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. So let's start with one of the biggies. And now this is only a biggie if you live in the country.
Yeah, and this happened to us. Actually,
yes, it did.
We owned the property. We bought it fairly low in price. Knowing that it was an old home, needed a lot of repairs, needed new roofing, new siding, that kind of thing.
Electrical.
Needed some electrical updates.
Yeah.
And yet one of the things we didn't think about was it's got a really old septic system. And we rented out that property, and then, a few months later, the septic system failed.
Yeah.
And so now we've got a failed system. And we got to decide, do we sell the house? Do we keep the house? And now that was, mind you,
doesn't matter.
20
it was
some
a
years
while ago.
But a septic system back then was $10,000. Yeah. Today you might spend 20, 25.
30, 35.
Maybe even 30. And so it was a struggle. It was a financial struggle to come up with $10,000 extra to put into this house, especially when I think we only paid like $85,000 for the house back then. So we're talking over 10% of the value of the house, having to come up with that again to put in the ground. And what's interesting is it's a system of the house.
Right.
And any system in your house, whether that be a furnace, the shingles, the roofing, the windows, if they're broken, you pretty much have to repair it, because if you don't, the value you're going to get for the property is going to be significantly reduced. Plus, it's probably going to create damage to your house. So if you got poor shingles and they start to leak, then you're not just now replacing shingles, you're actually doing drywall, replacing insulation, dealing with mold issues and all kinds of things, because water penetration is horrible on a house.
Right. It's
Yeah.
right up there with fire.
Yes. So,
So
that's coming up with that $10,000 was tough. We had to go to a line of credit to get that money.
yes, we did, because we didn't have it. And part of what we did, so I think this is an aside, and yet it's kind of an interesting piece to the story, is we knew that it was an older septic and it was functioning fine for the family that had been in the home.
Yep.
And it would have functioned fine for a family of 3 or 4 or maybe even 5, because that's about what would fit in the house. And yet what happened, which we didn't check as a landlord, is that the person that rented it put a daycare in the home.
Yeah,
And
they
it's
kept 4 or 5 kids during the
in
day.
addition to a family of 5. And so that is what prematurely failed it. So not always is it a function of the item. It's sometimes a function of how we use it.
Yes.
That's just sort of an aside that I think is important to have in the back of your mind. Not that answers specifically, do I repair or not? And it still gives some food for thought.
Yeah, and so one of the biggest questions that we get asked is, will I get my money back, or will I make more money for doing this major repair?
Right.
And the answer is yes and no.
Right. And generally, no. So
Yes.
that home, yeah, I just said no, you just said yes.
Yes.
Now we've totally confused you.
I'm saying, okay, let me change my yes to a correct.
Okay, thank you.
Pretty much you're not going to get more for your house because you repaired it.
Right.
More
when
than
it's-
market value.
Right. When it's a function of a major system in the house.
Right.
When it's a required, because you can't, a home without a septic system or a non-functioning septic system is essentially worth land value. Because it's going to be difficult to finance. It's going to be difficult to get a mortgage. It's going to be difficult to get an appraisal that's going to appraise at the right value. It's going to be difficult to get somebody that's willing to live in it without doing the repair. So those are the ones that really, the answer is yes, I need to do it. And you're not likely to get much, if any, of the value back.
Yeah, like if your well goes dry,
Right.
or you're building a new house and you're drilling a well because it's a country property, whether you go down 60 feet or 260 feet, the value of the house is exactly the same. The cost of the well might be double.
Or triple. Or
Yeah.
quadruple.
Yeah, very, very expensive. So now that's rural properties, and we do a lot more than rural properties. We do a lot of city properties as well. Now in the city, there are some things that could happen as well. Like for instance, the sewer pipe to the street. If that's blocked, cleaning that out or having to replace it can cost thousands of dollars to have to replace it. And yet that doesn't increase the value of your property 1 cent.
No, it unfortunately doesn't.
But if it's clogged, or if the roof's leaking, or the shingles are very worn, or the furnace is on its last legs, or it's broken, that will actually reduce the value of the property significantly from market value.
If you don't repair it.
If you don't repair it.
If you don't do the work.
So by doing those major repairs, which probably you've been in the house and you've gotten the life cycle out of it, so you're just replacing what you've used up.
Wait, can we just say that again? Because I think that's something that I haven't always understood. Before going into the real estate industry and before really understanding, because if I've spent more money, my belief was, right? And it may be the same for you. Your belief may be if I spend money on something, that clearly it makes my home more valuable. And I used to think that.
Well, it does and it doesn't. You see, it makes it the same value of a similarly maintained, properly maintained home.
Right.
If you don't do the work, it's going to be significantly less. And we'll explain in a little while why the value gets reduced significantly.
Right. Even more than
The cost of the repair.
cost of the repair, often.
Often.
When it's a major function in like a major component, I
Yes.
guess, a functional part of the house. Because without water, without heat, without a solid roof, meaning it doesn't leak, without a sewage system of some sort, whether it's sewer or whether it's septic, without those components, without walls and windows and doors, right? Without
Or
the
drafty
actual
windows or
right.
rotted wood windows.
Well, that maybe isn't as big a deal. I think you're getting a little on the extreme there. Those basics, though, have to be there. We're not the good old Wild West.
Yeah.
When I watch some of the movies, I think, well, you know what? They bought places and sold places that didn't have doors on them and things where the windows were blown out and all that kind of stuff. And yet today, we're going to struggle with financing, getting financing.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yeah. And you know what? It's not even the huge things as well. Like, it's important to recognize that if you've been in a house, say 10 or 15 years and the shingles need replacing, well, if you'd been putting a few $100s a year away, or, $500 a year away for those 15 years, you might have close to enough money to change the shingles. And so you've used up the life cycle of the shingles while you lived in the home. And why should you expect someone buying it to have to pay for new shingles? Right?
Right.
Now, it's the same thing at a little lesser extent. Things like carpet. We'll go into a home, the carpet's worn or dirty or stained, and the useful life cycle of that carpet has been used up. And so people say, well, I'll put new carpet in, but will I get more money for it? No, you'll get the value of the property. If you don't, you're going to get less than the value of the property.
Right. So you retain the value.
You retain value by maintaining your property.
Right. So we've started giving different examples of what things generally will give you a return or won't give you a return, and yet still probably do them, because then you don't devalue the home. If you're sort of thinking, well, this specific thing in my house, I wonder. And maybe you're wondering, can I get the answer to that? Mm-hmm. This is helpful as a general overall, and yet I would maybe like some specifics. And so if you would like those, would it be okay if they connected with you?
Absolutely.
Okay. And what would be the best and easiest way to do that?
Well, I think that they just called our office and let them know what they're looking for, what information they're looking for. Then I'm going to return that call, generally same day, might be within 24 hours, but generally same day. And all they have to do is call me at 613-860-4663, and I'm happy to help.
Well, and I guess the other thing that I would be willing to do, and with Ken's support and help, because we like to function as a team, because we often see it slightly different. As you've been listening to the show, I'm sure you hear similar foundational truths are the same, and yet slightly different perspectives.
Yeah, we come at things a little differently.
Right, so we'll collaborate on it. So the other thing you could do, which I've had some folks do, and it's been really helpful to them, so we'd be willing to offer that to you, is just send us some pictures.
Yeah.
Send us a description, some pictures, what you're thinking, and we can do a nice 10, 15-minute consult. Probably not going to answer a subjective answer on email, and yet if we've got the information, then we're well prepared to have a phone consult with you to give you that information. And that's whether you're going to stay in your home long-term, mm-hmm. or whether you're thinking of making a move. So this isn't something that we're going to only do when you're going to move.
No, we're here to help.
We're here to help.
Yeah.
And we would love to be able to do that for you if you would find value in that.
Yes.
So in terms of other things that somebody might want to replace or might not want to replace, how do you, from a general sense, can make that determination?
Well, there's going to be, you have maintenance, and you in many homes have delayed maintenance, where people have just let things go a little bit, whether it because of financial reasons or time restraints or just didn't matter to them.
Right. Yeah.
Those are maintenance items like painting, repairing the slope on the landscaping, when the interlock sinks or the steps
happens
crooked.
Every year at my house.
Well, some of those things happen. And yet that's a maintenance thing. Replacing carpets that are getting worn is maintenance. Now, the next step up is upgrades. So if you've got, let's say, one more maintenance item, a lot of people, I'll go in and their counter has a burn ring from a hot pot, or the corner is, the joint is swollen because it's had too much moisture near the sink or something, or the sinks had moisture there and it's starting to rot
right, or even chips in the countertop.
Chip in the countertop.
Or some of that that facing.
Oh, the end broken off.
Yeah, the end broken off. I've had that before.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
So replacing that countertop is a maintenance item.
It's not an upgrade?
No, unless you go to granite. If it had laminate and you go to granite, that's an upgrade. If you had carpet and you go to hardwood, that's an upgrade.
What's maintenance and an upgrade?
Yes, it's upgrading as you maintain.
Okay. So there's a slogan for Ken.
Yes.
Upgrade as you maintain.
Yes.
How's that sound?
Because as you upgrade as you maintain, sometimes the cost of that is not that much more than the other replacement. And that is generally where you may make more money on your house.
Okay.
Because now you haven't just maintained it, you've upgraded it. And so some people will say, well, what about this kitchen? The kitchen is, 10 years old. It's a nice oak kitchen or something. And they go, should we upgrade it to a modern? And I'll go, well, not really, because it's in good condition. There's nothing to maintain it. Maybe if the finish is coming off, respray the one door or something, change the knobs to a modern knob. But to change a kitchen from one because you like a different style doesn't mean you've upgraded your house and significantly increased the price.
Right, you have upgraded it. It just won't necessarily return as much income as the expense.
Unless you had an old kitchen that maybe had external hinges or was one of those European style with the wood trim and the laminate, and or it's delaminating. The doors are starting to fall apart. Then changing the kitchen may be a great time.
And maybe refacing, maybe just putting doors on. I mean, part of the whole kitchen conversation, and it's such an individual one-on-one conversation.
That's a whole show.
That is a whole show, and it's probably more a conversation specific to your house, because it really is variable, depending on where you live, what price range the home is in, how difficult. If you have bulkheads in a kitchen, as an example, instead of cabinets that go to the ceiling, that just shows the age, because we generally don't do bulkheads today.
No, and so they're left open, or you go
a higher cabinet. Most of the time now we do a higher cabinet, so that changes the age and the feel. And will it go back to shorter cabinets? Maybe, probably.
Or the 70s, 80s kitchen where it wrapped around, and then you had upper cabinets to the eating area, so you had to duck down underneath them to look at so just taking those out can really open up a kitchen. Right.
So sometimes a small renovation or update without completely updating will change the feel and the flow and that will give you a return, won't it?
Yes. No. Do you remember the house in Upper Hunt Club? Mm-hmm. We went in, and the person wanted kind of the highest value they could get for the home.
Right.
And we said, okay, now that wasn't that old a house. I think it was maybe 10 years old, maybe something like that.
Yep.
And we said, okay, if you want the top dollar that any house of this model has sold in this neighborhood, then you're going to need to do a few updates or upgrades, actually, not updates, but upgrades.
Well, both, I guess.
Yeah. And so they painted the entire house. They took the countertop out, put granite in, and installed a backsplash. Our folks went in. We recommended some people to help them. And it was amazing, because we went in the first time. It was 1 week earlier. We got in, put a price, and said, if you do this, we can get about this price. Within that week, we had our granite people put granite top in. We had our painter paint the place. Sunday, he was doing the grouting on the backsplash, and he was just taking the tape off and cleaning the last little bit of grout as we were coming to open up the house, put our open house signs up that Sunday. And we got multiple offers on Monday, and it sold for the highest that any home of that size had sold in that neighborhood.
Yeah. At that point, which is fantastic.
Yeah, and those upgrades, I believe, are what gave that wow factor when people walked in.
Absolutely. So there is value in doing upgrades sometimes.
Yeah. And again, if you want advice on whether you should be updating, upgrading, maintaining, give us a call. Because I also see houses where, a small condo, townhouse, and they've put granite in, a new kitchen, a new bathroom, and they spent like $30,000 and they're not getting an extra $30,000
or
on
60,000.
their... Yeah. So got to be careful a little bit.
A lot.
Yeah. Now, it's interesting when you don't repair.
Right.
Why do we get so much less for the house if you don't repair those major things?
Well, it's not just the major things. When it comes to don't repair, it's the major things and it's the minor things.
And the maintenance. Delayed maintenance.
Deferred, delayed, put off. Because I like to put things off.
Okay. So you do all that and we'll put a lower price.
Yeah.
Not because we want a lower price, but because the demand will be lower for the property. And there's a few major reasons why.
Right. The first is that there's going to be fewer people interested. Today, more than not, people are looking for something that is move-in ready. Mm-hmm. Short of somebody that's an investor that's looking to do a flip, they don't really want you to have touched it. They want something that's in inferior condition.
Yeah, because they want to buy it at an inferior price.
Right. So if you don't have the time, the capacity, the energy, the desire to do a renovation, every home is saleable. There is no doubt in my mind that every home is saleable. The question becomes at what price?
Yeah. And the other thing that narrows your market is some people only have a certain amount of down payment.
Right.
And so they can't buy a house that needs maintenance and repairs and have the money to do that as well as pay the down payment.
Right.
So those people are out of the market right away. They can't buy it, especially if it's a major item, that needs to be done, like a furnace or the shingles or something. If it's paint and carpet, well, sometimes they'll take a home in poorer condition and live with it for a little while till they can save up some money to do some upgrades.
Right, especially if they're buying it at a savings.
Yeah, and there's fewer people, though, that have that vision, that ability to look at a property and go, oh, I can fix this up.
Right, so vision is impaired. Mm-hmm. How's that? Impaired vision, when it comes to looking at the potential in a house, is actually a very common challenge that we've experienced over the years.
Yeah.
We tend to be able to see it. And as we're getting all excited about this sometimes for somebody or even for ourselves, people are going, I don't get it. And so people do have impaired vision. And so the more you can paint the vision, create the picture, show it at its best, the more you will get for the home. And then the other thing that sometimes happens is people can go with a purchase plus improvements.
Yeah, the buyer can, but again, they need that vision of what they want it to look like.
Right, and it's a little harder to qualify for, and it's a little more costly. So it's not necessarily...
It's not ideal.
It's not ideal.
It's always ideal for the seller to present their property in the best manner possible. Now, sometimes people just don't have any money for the repair.
Yeah,
and
the seller.
The seller doesn't have any money for the repair. And so there's a few things. They can borrow money. They can put it on a credit card. Some of our contractors will actually allow, when they know you're selling, they'll do the work and they'll accept payment from the lawyer on closing.
Yeah.
And so sometimes that's okay if you got enough equity in the house. Sometimes you can get a line of credit if you've got equity in the house. And sometimes, again, like you said, where someone doesn't have the capacity to do the work, they just don't want to live through the mess,
right?
Or they don't have the finances, can't get the finances, then we may just sell at a slightly lower price to compensate.
Right, because it will still sell. I think that's the big thing we want you to hear today more than anything. With or without major repairs, every home will sell, given the buyer perceives the value that you're charging for the home.
Yep. And now from time to time where we sell a home and then something comes up in the home inspection. There's vermiculite in the attic, or there's the septic system's not working, or the pipe to the sewer is clogged or broken. Or, believe it or not, tree roots go through the pipe and they go after the nutrients inside the pipe in the water. And so you pretty much, there are some systems where they rotor it out and then put a lining in. But for the most part, if you got an old cast pipe, they're going to dig up to the road and put in a new plastic pipe. It's going to last longer. And so in homes that are 50, 60 years old, we got to watch for that kind of thing. But if that comes up after you've sold the house, then for most sellers, it's pretty much you're going to have to fix it. Because if you don't, and that seller or that buyer walks away, you pretty much got to fix it before the next buyer anyways, right?
Yeah,
or
you're
disclose
right.
it.
Or disclose. So either you must disclose and now you devalue the home, or you repair and you take on that expense. And so often that buyer will still wait around for you to repair it. And other times it's just too much for them, even though they know you're going to repair it. It can scare people off. So if it's a major system, it is generally best, if it's suspect at all, to handle it in advance of ever putting it on the market.
Yep.
Now, on occasion with septics and with sewer and things like that, there will be a sharing of the cost. Because if I was expecting an old system and now I'm going to get a brand new system, it may be doable to share some of that expense with a buyer.
And that's where our years and years of negotiating skills come in play.
Right. Yeah. So if you want to have a conversation and tap into our genius around those negotiating skills, they could reach us for that as well, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Just in a general.
Yeah, give us a call. We're delighted to help.
Are we?
Yeah, delighted.
Okay, we are delighted.
That's a great word. It makes me smile when I say delighted. I'm delighted to help. It would be our pleasure. Yeah. And just give us a call.
Yeah. So again, I'll just give you the number in case you didn't get it last time. 613-860-4663. And then for specifics, probably best thing is send us some pictures, show us what you're up against, and then we will give you our best combined input. Because selling a home and spending 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, even $100,000 on repairs do not always give you a return. And I think the other thing that happens is some people think that an upgrade is actually a repair, or vice versa.
It's not. Like repairing a foundation is just repairing a foundation. It doesn't make your house worth any more. Yeah. It just makes it solid.
Right. So if you want solid answers, connect with us and we would love to provide that solid answer. Thanks for joining us on The Inside Track on Genius.